Hello, Radiant Souls. I am your host, Angela Ahimsa, and you've tuned in to Feed Your Chakras. Today's guest is Bahareh. She is a corporate leader, a life alignment coach, and the founder of Sage in You Coaching. She's known as the Sage in the system because she brings consciousness, compassion, and clarity into spaces that often value speed over soul. So in this episode, we're going to explore how alignment amplifies performance, leadership, and purpose. Not by leaving the corporate world, but by elevating it from within. We're going to dive into energy, efficiency, and chakra-informed leadership and what it truly means to succeed from the inside out. So take a deep breath and let's awaken the leader within. Thank you so much for joining me, Sage.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yes. So just a little background, Sage and I, we were actually in a research group together. So if we weren't in that group together, we probably wouldn't have met, but we did a few groups together, just talking, and she's also publishing a book. So we had a little chat, and then we found out, even though we're on like completely different niches, we have a lot of overlap. So we thought it would be really interesting to have this conscious conversation today. So I'm really excited about it.
Same here. We're all connected as humans anyhow.
Yeah. So let's just come in, because I find the Sage in the system a very intriguing and provocative name. What inspired you to bridge spirituality and corporate leadership in what you do?
Yeah. So thank you so much. Like Sage in the system was actually born from my own very real experience, right? I grew up, I'm from Middle East, and I grew up learning to like get educated, like really achieve a lot of academia and get a job that is safe and secure, and then work in a corporate world. All that is good, right? Because now it's like you're somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up doing all of that. I got 2 master's degrees. I got into the corporate world. And then I worked in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment where people looked successful on paper, but sometimes they felt exhausted or numb or disconnected inside, right? And this is not something that you can really pick on, like if you're an autopilot, which I was for years, right? I just performed and performed and performed, and I was one of them. So for years, I led what I call my corporate ego. And that was part of me that believed that I continuously have to do more, deliver more, prove more, help more, solve more, right? Do things that make me recognized, but not necessarily feel aligned. And then the truth was that the more I proved, the less I felt. Right? So that's when the shift happened, right? I started noticing something small, but very powerful. And that's like when I started slowing down, everybody else around me slowed down. When I started listening deeply, people opened up to me. When I grounded myself, conversations became much deeper and easier and more honest, right? Mm-hmm. So I realized that people didn't really need more pressure because they already have a lot of it, but they needed more presence. And this is, more presence. This is when the Sage was born. And when I look at Sage is it's like that part of me that leads with wisdom and not urgency. The part that is clear, not noisy. And the part that is aligned, not just performing, right? So that realization was that, and then I realized, okay, I love my corporate job because it feeds a part of me, the leadership structure and all that stuff. But then I realized that I don't have to leave my corporate system to be a Sage. I can actually embody the Sage inside the system, right? Yeah. So that's why I call myself the Sage in the system.
Living in the matrix.
Living in the matrix. Yeah. Like someone who brings the calm and clarity on one side and consciousness into an environment that a lot of time loses sight of it because it's fast, right?
A lot of out of alignment in many aspects. It's very interesting too, because it's just like, by holding that grounded presence, and it's like, you create that ripple first within and then it ripples outwards. What you actually just said reminded me, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was about how, patients were so frustrated because they waited so long to see doctors, and then the doctor would come in, talk for 5 minutes and then leave. And they just felt it was dismissed and they weren't, recognized. And then one doctor just would come in and sit down and didn't spend any more time, but just the whole perception of that, because their grounded presence, they felt more of a connection because they're not towering over this person. And it's just those little subtle nuances and how, what an impact it can make somebody feel heard or understood. You know what I mean? So good on you.
That's what we're missing these days.
Yes. Okay, so that leads me to my next question. What does soulful alignment actually look like in a fast-paced corporate environment? Because I know that a lot of us, people, are often in flight. Like they're always trying to just get to the next meeting, get everything done, answer all the emails. What does soulful alignment look like in contrast?
So soulful alignment is like taking a moment, right?
Before already getting grounded. I love it. Let's do this.
Right? Like taking a moment, taking a moment before reacting, taking a moment before responding, making people feel that they're seen, that they're heard, right? That their opinions matter, right? Mm-hmm. So a funny thing is that I'm inherently a solutioner. Like people come to me to solution. People come to me to remove obstacles. People come to me to like drive and lead and do all that stuff, right? And I used to be the first one speaking. Now I'm probably the last one speaking in the room. Right? That's the big shift for me. That's all. Because I don't feel the need to talk. Mm-hmm. I feel the need to be there, to be present, to empower. So everybody else around me feels safe to talk.
Yes.
That's the biggest shift, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I like that because it's non-egoic then. It's like you're here basically for the team to hold space, and that's where the alignment is. It's not you operating from this, I got to prove myself.
I've never done that. I'm over it.
Okay. So many people see spirituality and corporate success as complete opposites. Mm-hmm. How can alignment actually enhance our performance and our efficiency as a result of this alignment or this kind of higher connection?
Yeah, I actually feel there is no separation between the two at all.
Yeah, there's no separation between spirituality and anything.
Yeah, real spirituality to me is awareness.
Mm-hmm. Consciousness.
Right? That consciousness and awareness, right? So it's awareness of yourself, knowing who you are, your actions, your impact, your tone, your presence, your intentions, right? Mm-hmm. And when you translate that to the corporate environment, these are exact same things, right? So one of the things that when I coach people or mentor like colleagues at work, and they tell me like, what are the things that a leader needs to know? I said, you need to be self-aware. You need to be situationally aware. You need to be organizationally aware. Mm-hmm. Right? So I need to know myself so I can manage myself in every situation. I need to know what is in my area of control, what is in my area of influence, what can I where do I need to lean in, where do I need to lean back, right? All that stuff is awareness. Knowing as to who am I talking to? Am I talking to leadership, like senior leadership? Am I talking to my peers? Am I talking to my subordinates? Who am I talking to? Mm-hmm. So I'm situationally aware. And then also be organizationally aware, because then organization is a culture, right? So what is accepted, what is not accepted? What is in my code of ethics? What is not in my code of? How do I show up as a leader, right? So that is all awareness. It's just a different language. So I don't necessarily bring the spirituality in work through language. Like I don't go tell people, oh, your chakras are not balanced. Go now sit down and do meditation. I'm like, I don't do that.
Balance on that solar plexus.
That's solar plexus, right? But I bring that through how I show up, right? I don't need to say it out loud. I just need to embody it.
Yes.
So when I show up grounded, I tell people that my root chakra, like I feel safe. Mm-hmm. I feel safe. Everybody around me is going to feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very well said. And that was actually going to be my next question, is like, how does that inner balance affect the leadership? But you just answered that. So how could other corporate leaders take some of these practical steps, or what are the practical steps, mind you, that they could do to cultivate more alignment within their teams?
So I believe in the fact that we are 100% responsible for our actions. Like when we take responsibility for everything, it gives us power. It empowers us, right? Whenever we don't take responsibility, we give our power away. We become victim of our environment, right? So from a leadership perspective, the most important thing, in my opinion, is that as leaders, we need to know our values. We need to know the values of our organization. We need to understand how our values align with those, right? Mm-hmm. And again, there's going to be differences, there's going to be similarities, right? Because everybody has different values. But the more we can align the two together, right, the easier it's going to be to integrate the two. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. The other thing is that once we understand our values, then we have to understand how it shows up in our energy system. Right? How do we show up? How do we act? How do we make decisions? Are we making aligned actions? When do we surrender? Surrender is another one. I take actions, and I trust that my actions are going to lead the results that are meant to be. So when we show up at that point, right, it creates that balance in our energy systems, and people pick up on that because energy of leaders are felt before they open their mouth. Mm-hmm. Or they talk about something, right? So when they shift more into a balance for leading, when it comes to leading, when they're softer, when they're clearer, when they speak less, when they're more grounded, right? So the relationships at work change because then people come to them not for decisions, they come to them for awareness, for steadiness, mm-hmm. right? So that has been my own experience, right? Inner balance, in my opinion, creates that outer trust. Yeah. And the trust is the foundation of any healthy workspace.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that a lot of leaders, just because of the high stress and maybe they're chasing achievement over choosing alignment, do you find that it deregulates their nervous system?
It does. Let's be real. These concepts of spirituality is not close to heart for everyone. Mm-hmm. I talk to so many people and it's not even part of their life. There was a time that it was not even part of my life, right? And then if we are on autopilot, right? So you get up every morning, you grab your coffee, your meetings start at 9 o'clock, and you continuously have to make decisions, and you don't have a morning ritual for you to ground yourself and come back to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So we can't expect anything else. Because a lot of people are working on autopilot. That's number one. Number two is that a lot of us grew up with values that are not ours, right? So what happens is the reality is that I grew up with values that I was told by my parents, by my community, by my society, right? That I need to be a certain person. I need to dim my light, right? For other people to feel good around me. So that has always, and that is not sustainable. We cannot live the values of others, or we can't project the values of others into our lives, and we can't inject our values to other people's lives. Mm-hmm. You can do that for a short period of time, and that's part of our versatility, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not sustainable for a long time. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of successful people, on paper, they look really good, including myself for a long time. But then you always quietly ask, is that all that I'm going to do? Is that all there is? Right? Why am I feeling off? Why am I not happy? Why am I my happiness, that recognition is temporarily, right? So I believe that it is key. For sure.
And that's the beauty of alignment, is when it feels good on the inside and looks good on the outside. You did mention on how you weren't particularly spiritual before. And I feel that, there's actually a shift as people are trying to kind of lean towards more purpose and alignment. But for the people that feels drawn to alignment but doesn't want to be they still have that ooh, is this too spiritual or woo-woo? How would you introduce consciousness to them in a grounded and science-backed, evidence-based way?
So usually I get when I talk to people, again, I'm going to go back to that situational awareness, right? Not everybody is the same. There are people in the corporate world that are spiritual, that have spiritual practices, and there are some that simply don't know, right? So some cases I do get some hesitation at first, not because people reject the ideas, because simply they don't know it or they don't understand it, right? So, and that resistance usually comes from the language and not the actual concept, right? Mm-hmm. Because deep down, everybody knows we are spiritual beings having human experience. I mean, that's in everybody. They inherently know it, whether they agree with it or they're aware of it. That's a different story. Inherently, we know we are not just this body; we're more than this body, right? So when people hear words like energy or alignment, sometimes they think it's too abstract. So what I try to do, I try to translate things instead of saying, "Oh, let's ground your energy." Like they're gonna look at me like, "What is she talking about?" Right? Let's just take us 10 seconds to reset so we can think clearly. That's it. As simple as that. Let's pause for 10 seconds. We're just doing that right now. Like right there, that 10 seconds shifts perspective, right? Or instead of me coming to them say, "Oh, let's align your sacral center." I don't say that. I'm like, what kind of support do you need to collaborate more effortlessly? So that's the type of conversation I have, right? Instead of saying, "Oh, you're in survival mode right now." Like, I don't know.
I can see your root chakra is severely imbalanced.
And then I say, okay, let's take a moment and go back to the space where you feel safe to make decisions.
Yeah, I love that. It's meeting people where they're at in their own language.
In their own language. And then when they experience the impact, then they're much calmer. They're more empowered. They're easier to talk about. Like one of the things I tell people, like that has to do with throat chakra. Like people show up in meetings and they say, "Oh, my 2 cents." That is statement on its own. It tells me that there's something wrong with the throat chakra, because they're not feeling empowered to come and say, "I believe this is the right answer." So they shift it to say "my 2 cents," or "I feel," or "I think." Right? It changes. When it comes to leadership, those words matter. Like if I show up and say, "Oh, my 2 cents is like," it means that I don't believe in myself. I don't believe in the power of my voice. I don't believe in my, expertise. So changing the slight things can balance. And it doesn't have to be major shift. It can be tiny. What is it?
Yeah, speaking in the affirmative, as we know how much that works. So, okay, that's an interesting thing about the throat chakra. Do you notice any specific chakra that might be blocked in most corporate leaders? I have my own assumptions of what they would be, but I'm just interested to hear what you'd say.
I can talk about every single chakra.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Okay, actually, you know what? Let's just do that, shall we? Let's just dive in to the corporate system and dissect the chakra system in relation, like each energy and what it represents in relation to human potential within the corporate organization.
Quantum physics. I don't know how much people like quantum physics.
Oh my God, I love it. And it's the same thing as spirituality, in my opinion.
So what I tell people is that when it comes to law of attraction and universe like supporting, a lot of people talk about manifestation and they're like, "Oh, if I sit there and I visualize and I have my intention and I write my affirmations," and some people that are advanced, they do affirmations, they ask questions instead of writing. Like there's so many different things. What I tell people is that actually, like for the universe to give you what you want, you have to build the container to be able to handle what universe is going to give you.
To sustain the new structure you're asking for.
Exactly. So if my container is this big, right, but I'm asking for this big, I need to first build a bigger cup.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to handle what I can. Right? So that's number one. Number two, for the universe to give you that, to make sure you can handle that container, the universe is going to throw you blocks.
Oh my gosh, I've been going through this week.
Yeah. And that's where people give up. It's going to throw you so much to see how much you can expand, how much you can expand, how much you can expand. I use my own example here is like when I was making this shift at work, right? Again, I'm a high performer. I did a lot. I wanted bigger things, right? I actually made a shift. I went to something much smaller because my value, remember, my value is meaningful work. My value is freedom. So I wanted to create more freedom for me to do meaningful work rather than just be busy, right? So I had to consciously choose to shift. what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, like when we do something, our mind makes the initial move, but then the body takes over. If I'm in autopilot, delivering every day, my body understands delivery, fast pace.
Mm-hmm.
Now my mind wants to be more soul-led. My body gets confused. The body said, oh, what are you talking about? For 43 years, you just drove and now you're telling me I want to slow down? It ain't possible.
Yeah.
Right? So when I made that decision at work, my body hadn't caught up.
Mm-hmm.
I made a decision. Every conversation I had, I'm not kidding here, I could not have a straight conversation with anyone without crying.
Really?
I spent 3 weeks in the washroom at work, like at least a few hours, crying my head out because my body didn't know what's happening.
It was like rejecting this new regulated state of being.
Everything about me was mess because I'm holding the next container, and the next container for me is to be more, not do more. And I've been a doer all my life.
Yeah. Most people have. I've been a doer. And it took me 3 weeks, 3 solid weeks. That's actually not that long in comparison to the whole trajectory.
Yeah, because of all the work that I've done internally, right? But I'm just giving an example here. It took me 3 weeks to catch up. And now I'm enjoying my new role because I am showing up from my soul. I'm not showing up from my ego.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the more I let go of recognition, the more I let go of other people's approval of me, the more I showed up aligned to my values, the dynamics changed.
And you actually receive that because you're not in lack of it. You're indifferent.
No, I'm showing up because I'm here to do something. I'm here to bring value. How can I be of service rather than what can you do for me? It's not transactional anymore. And every morning when I get up, I always say, everybody does what they think is best for them. I do what keeps me aligned. And that what a statement just sets the whole thing.
That's a beautiful.
Yeah, everybody does what they think is good for them. So I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to question. I'm not here to change that. I'm here to respect it, celebrate it, and acknowledge it. But I show up the way I need to show up to be aligned. Because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing to me. So the message here is that transformation is not loud, my friends. It is subtle, it's human, and it's very powerful.
And can be very messy.
It can be very messy. And that messiness is beautiful. That's human experience.
That's you facing your shadows.
Facing my shadows and recalibrating and getting out of, as Dr. Joe described.
Recalibrating is a beautiful word for the alignment. You are recalibrating.
Yeah. So I like this quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, breaking the habit of being yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to give our viewers one practical takeaway for today. How or what would, if someone only has 5 minutes a day, what can they do to shift from being on autopilot to alignment? Simple steps.
Before you be able to do the simplest steps, there needs to be some work. Again, breaking the habit of being yourself. If I'm showing up the same person every day and now I want to change, I cannot expect change. For me to change, I have to be a completely new person. Right? So that's where shift happens. So I don't want to give people false idea that, oh, if you start doing this every morning, now you're all of a sudden you're going to be a different person. No, you have to show up differently. You have to act differently. So what I would, if I were to leave people with one tip, I would say, know your core values. And these are not your parental values. They're not your societal values. These are not the values that everybody says we should have. These are the values that show up in your daily life. Ask yourself questions. Where am I spending my money? If I look around me, what do I have? Am I surrounded by books or am I surrounded by toys? What am I surrounded with, right? Because your values are not what you think your values are. Your values are what show up in your life. Where do I spend my money? Where do I spend my time? What interests me? When do I do something that feels like flow, right? So all that stuff, there's so many questions in my Sage Compass exercise. I go through that with my clients. There's a whole bunch of questions you answer. You find then you look at your lifespan, like experiences you had in the past. And then based on those, you can identify what your values are. And by the way, your values change. You have to revisit it every 6 months, twice a year to see, are you still aligned? Are these still my values? They're not set on stone, right? So understand your core values, and then understand how those core values are showing up in your life. How are they showing up in your energy? How are they showing up in the way you speak? How do they show up in the way you act? How do they show up in the way you respond? Once you have that clarity, every time you get into a situation, before you respond, this is the 5-second activity now. Before you respond, take a moment to breathe. And just ask yourself one question. Is this aligned or automatic? Coaching is not about difficult questions. Coaching is about simple questions we don't ask ourselves. Is this aligned or is it automatic? For me, every time I have to make a decision, I say, is it aligned to freedom? I'm trying to be free. What does freedom mean? I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, who I want to do it, where I want to do it. I don't have restrictions and all that stuff. So how can I get one step closer to that? Now, if I'm going to be offered a job that requires me to work 80 hours, how is that supporting my freedom? Right? Am I going for that job that requires me to work 80 hours because it is automatic, it's nice, it's shiny, it's better and bigger, it's going to give you more recognition, or it's aligned to the fact that I want to be free? That one question right there can be a big yes or a big no, right? Am I aligned? And that's how alignment begins, my friends. It's not rocket science. It's awareness.
Yes, it is. Thank you. That was beautifully said. Bahareh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your grounded insights, and for helping guide us through the chakras of the corporate system. Your work reminds us that alignment isn't separate from success. It's the foundation of it. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. If this conversation inspired you in any way, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It helps spread the message of alignment and elevation. And you can also connect with Bahareh through Sage in You Coaching. And I will share the links in the replay, but I believe it is sageinyoucoaching.com.
It's www.sageinyou.com.
Okay. Until next time, stay grounded, stay radiant, and keep feeding